if you can also close the door, it would be useful. Okay, so back during the Quake days, I sent an email to all of you saying, hey guys, you know, probably lots of time now since you can't be in the lab. It's a good time to actually do some writing because there's nothing much else to do. I'm not sure how much you actually took that suggestion on board. Maybe some of you did. I know some of them have been frantically working on a PhD thesis. I'm not too sure about the others. Sometimes some of them weren't even here yet. Yeah, so I wanted to follow up on that. And since I assume that you've all been writing and that you've got something to write on right now, that maybe this would be useful to talk about a bit how you can make that very efficient and effective. Because, of course, it's a quite... it's a lot of work to do this, and so I will like today introduce you to a couple of things that will make this process a little bit easier. The tricky part here is that some of you will probably be quite familiar with the things I'm going to talk about, so I just want to have like a quick raise of hand. Who's usually using Microsoft Word to do writing? Who is using LaTeX to do writing? One, excellent. And who's using a bibliographic manager such as EndNote or anything like that? 1, 2, 3. Okay, excellent. Wow, so my effort will not be completely wasted. Hi there. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is 3 things. First is the process of writing, the writing itself. The second thing is the process of layouting, in terms of getting into a format that is publishable. And last, it's the process of actually the publishing process, so when it comes to submission review and so forth. And maybe 1 or 2 hints for sort of career advice, if you might say so. So let's kick off with some writing. Now, what you see is that I'm going to show you today a lot of hands-on things. So there'll be a lot of demonstrations so that you can actually see, you know, really well how all of these things are done. Right? And one could possibly argue that Microsoft Word might not be the best text editor there is, and you know, it has certainly some problems, but it's also not the worst one. It has actually quite a few things that are quite nice in it and that help you to write. Actually, you might not necessarily want to put 100 figures in there, but you know, at least for processing text, pure text, it's reasonably okay. So this is probably how you start writing, with an empty page, right? And then usually you have got a big problem now, and that is you have to do 2 things at the same time. One is that you have to think about what is it that you want to write about, and you have to decide in which order you should write these things. And these are, if you try to do both at the same time, it's very difficult. So it's usually a good idea to take 1 step at a time. And the good way to do this is to first just to blur out everything that you want to talk about. And well, this doesn't necessarily need to be very unstructured. One can already try to use a little bit of a structure in there. And a good way of doing this is to use the outline feature of Microsoft Word. So who of you has ever used the outline feature of Microsoft Word? 1. Excellent. See, this is so wonderful. You know, everybody's using Word, but nobody actually knows how it works. Wonderful. Now, so the outline feature of Microsoft Word is a little tool. It's just one of the different views that Word is offering. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And it's just right here. You know, you got the draft, the web layout. I'm not sure if I use the web layout. But there's the outline tool. And this is a pretty good tool. So what you can do is say, okay, I'm probably going to do an introduction. Right? Okay, and in there I want to talk about the need for this technology. Right? And then I want to talk about, you know, all this great researcher who did this piece of work. And then maybe I'll probably gonna have something maybe like a research question. Maybe then I have a method section, and maybe an eval, or then maybe something like results, something like this maybe, right? But then I think, okay, actually this is not really good. What I should really start with is introducing the problem, right? And actually this is a real big issue because it actually has sub things like state of the art and my contribution and so forth, right? And the nice things you can do now is you can just move these things around. That's the nice thing. So for example, you can increase or decrease the levels. But for example, you can also move it up and down, which is here. So you can change the order of things. So this way you can nicely create sort of like an informal hierarchy about how things should come together, right? And you can really just start blurping everything out, clustering it in some sort of hierarchies. And then once you blurt everything out, you can actually then start to structure it even more so that in the end, you sort of come to a good structure. Now, the nice thing about this now is that, of course, you shouldn't start actually writing the real text in here. This is really just for the structure of your document, not for the text itself. But once you're satisfied with your structure, you can just switch over to the draft thing, and what you see here is that now all of these things have become your actual headlines, right? So this is a headline 1, heading 2, this is heading 2, do we already have this is heading 3, right? So now you can start actually writing in the normal text. This is what I want to say, right? Now, so you first create the outline, the structure of the document, and then you start putting the meat onto the skeleton. No? Now, what I said now in terms of the styles is actually something very, very important, because you should actually never, ever do anything without styles in Microsoft Word. So who of you has ever been using styles? All of you. That's really good. They've been now kind of hiding these things. I'm still trying to get used to Microsoft Office 2011. Well, essentially the basic idea is that the idea of a style is that you define, well, as it says, a style, for example here now for the flow text, but maybe, I think I know where it is. Oh, not necessarily. So, but the idea is that what you can do now, once you did everything with styles, is that if you want, for example, you don't want this to be blue, since Microsoft 10 and 11, everything got blue. I don't want blue, I want it black, because that's, much higher contrast. And if you apply this, then every text that has the style is changed automatically. So the point is you change it only once, and all the text that is in the style will be changed. If you would do this manually, well, it's really painful because you would have to find every headline and change it every single time. And then automatically you probably use some inconsistencies. Really bad idea. So work with styles to define how things look. There shall not be a single piece of text in your document without a style. Okay. Now, next is, of course, which is really, really useful, is once you have the styles, you can even do things with it. And one of the things you can do with it is to make, for example, a table of contents. So who's ever done a table of contents? All of you. So I'm going to make this really quick. You just go to the index. You want to have a table of contents. You maybe do the traditional way. Classic's better. Whoosh. There you go. And of course, the table of contents is based on your styles. The styles define the essentially the headings, and the headings are then now in the table of contents. Right? Of course, the same thing holds true with, well, we'll come to that next. So this is something nice about styles. In general, when you have papers, stereotypically in this department you'll probably end up with two types of problems. There's more of a technology paper and there's more of a psychology paper. In a technology paper, probably what you're going to have is an introduction. You're going to have a problem definition. In this problem definition, you actually probably have some requirements. So you start your text with, hey, you know, maybe a little bit of introduction. So in this recent area, this and this became more important, and therefore, we have to pay more attention to this and that. But this question has not been answered, or this, you know, there's something that's not quite right. Therefore, we want to have a solution, and then we want to define requirements. That means I will consider essentially my contribution to success is if these and these and these requirements are being met. Then you probably dig into some literature. You would say, okay, what else is out there? Who else has tackled this problem? You know, and why are all these other solutions not exactly the one thing that I'm looking at? Also, you know, you can do benchmarking against that. You know, and then you probably start to describe your system.